game still rapping at a high capacity. If Nas wants to smoke, come in the booth. I will rap
He don't want
circles
no
around.
smoke. He enjoying that 150 million, 200 million he done
Okay
made.
then, so then leave me alone while I'm on the field.
You was effing with him. He wasn't bothering you.
They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them though.
Jim Jones was never better than Nas. Jim Jones will never be better than Nas. And this is coming from somebody that's not a Nas fan. I love Dipset. I love the Diplomats. I love Bird Gang. But we not about to start rewriting history because Jim Jones got confidence.
Compared to Nas, Jim Jones asserted that he had a stronger impact on Shannon Sharpe's curriculum. When 50 Cent posted an old federal transcript on Instagram to declare that everything had changed, he let the streets do the arithmetic instead of responding with a post or targeting specific individuals. Now, fans are discovering old wiretap clips. In a way, 50 serves as a reminder to the industry of who is truly above the law and the reasons why some people have escaped punishment. When Jim returns to the gym, he talks about shouting back and diss tracks as though he were getting ready for battle and Rikers. Perhaps Jim began this to make a point, but he might have begun something much more profound than songs given their past, which started in 2002 when Nas disparaged Cameron's record without providing an explanation. Jim Jones's reference to Nas always makes a significant impression, caused Dipset to enter full-scale attack mode. But yesterday was not the beginning of their disagreement. When Jim Jones charged in head first, chaos broke out. On Mixtape as he threatened to whip Nas because he believed Ipe was mocking Jim. Songs like We Fly High and It's More Than Music, despite the fact that he maintained the tension throughout, had a catch. Jim has always had a favorable opinion of Nas and has never had a bad opinion of him.
I never got to, did I ever got to see Nas? I never got to sit down and have a conversation with Nas and things like that. I had called you about it and things like that. That was like still one of the people that I never got to have a conversation throughout my history of rap and things like that. I think I would love to have a conversation with Nas. I wouldn't know if he knows it, but Nas was one of my all-time favorite rappers coming up and things like that.
I've heard you say that.
Since the barbecue and things like that, like he really put the whole dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap into perspective before anybody.
Jim wanted to stir things up when he appeared on Fat Joe's podcast with Jadakiss, but the adulation quickly turned to hostility.
Recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
from a young boy
big hits.
He
looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying, Nas is like a god.
In my era.
Jim was not yet finished adding material on this subject. Therefore, it might have been left out of the timeline.
But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade.
Yes.
So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan, period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you gotta realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation.
He then made fun of one of the hastiest choices in modern hip-hop history, which was unexpected.
Into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them though. But
you know what I mean?
A lot of them though.
Jim was doubling down rather than faltering. Jim also used his newfound fame to establish himself as a stronger force than Nas of Queensbridge, the man behind God's Son, King's Disease, and Illmatic, who is still in his 40s and still sells out Madison Square Garden.
Me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them entries and and I'm not taking nothing away from nobody, but I hear the comparisons and then be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this about the industry. I've been putting on.
Apart from causing controversy, that interview flipped everything upside down and kicked off the issue before the podcast's dust had even cleared. Shannon Sharpe had his nightcap on, and Jim Jones was all fired up. He went on the show with Shannon and Chad Usinko Johnson to try to clarify the remarks, but instead he fanned the flames. His first statement was that Shannon would no longer tolerate him.
Ask you a question, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little.
However, a few people decided to end the program because of what he said next.
I want you to Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type of. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that bullshit.
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit.
Jim looks to be done comparing resumes, but he always finds something that works. He began by bringing up the earlier battle between Dipset and Nas in the early 2000s, asserting that he was a greater fan of Nas despite having defeated him in Impact. He began to sidestep the topic by talking about how Nas has influenced fashion and calling him one of the most stylish people ever, but he kept returning to the same conclusion. Nas doesn't have the same influence on the streets as he has.
Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like,
Ain't no shame in that. There's a lot of folks came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear, and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after the movie Belly and shit like that.
Shannon wasn't having it.
Bro, you been in this thing, but lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
Y'all
but look
ain't
how
effing
you
with
dress.
Nas.
Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. The things that we, listen,
I can be in the church house. You can't F with Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, y'all know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas.
Additionally, Jim became so enraged that he began to ridicule Shannon's attire.
A bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than Nas.
It don't matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Ain't nobody from Dipset gonna take you over Nas. And nobody from the Diplomats but you.
I got
Hold on, Jim. Hold on.
That shirt too tight.
Hold on.
That
Jim,
shirt too tight. You want to go back to I really mean it? I really mean it started. We could go back to the history, bro.
But you didn't even
do
say that.
I just noticed Shannon and Jim fighting.
At a high level, you check my record,
you jumping up and
I'm still playing at a high level. I'm rapping at a high level. You better check my stats, bro. I will run circles around Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. Right now, I will run Saturn around Nas right now rapping.
Unk became furious after Jim disclosed that Shannon was merely exploiting him to gain views.
This is the biggest podcast you ever been on. Do you know what podcast you been on better than this one?
Hold on. We on topic. Hold on.
This is what I do. You see
Name a podcast you been on bigger than this one. When you get big, you get invited to Club Shay Shay.
This is what I do.
Nas get invited to Club Shay Shay.
He went from being a podcast presenter to a rival as soon as Jim informed Shannon Sharpe that he was better than Nas. If Jim wanted to go to the gym, Shannon would even take him. Both Shannon and his bars were pushed.
Start buying bag of your clothes, big fella. You too big, man.
You talk about you in the gym. Now you want to get me? You want me to see me in the gym?
Oh, we can do that.
Since you like to talk that ish, now come see me in the gym.
We talking about working out. What we talking about? Working out or strength? What we talking about? Working out or strength?
Work however you want to do it.
We talking about
since you got money.
And we talking about
put your money where your mouth is.
So you talking about working out? I burn
stacks.
You talking about working out? I burn you. You talking about working out or strength? Because you probably can lift a lot more than me.
Whatever.
You're bigger than me. You're probably stronger than me. But if you talk about working out, I burn you.
This ain't what you do. This ain't what you want. You are doing good when you talk about Nas and Jada. You don't want to see this.
Instead of just answering 50, he attempted to use the exchange to show off his continuous relevance and expertise in a new field by braggadocking in the gym and challenging Shannon to a workout war. 50 had already moved behind the scenes, but that iconic label was still prominently visible in the background, even if Jim was still focused on his gym tricks. This was all taking place as the internet used the information that an admirer said, Shannon did what Jada and Fat Joe should have done. As the former NFL Hall of Famer abruptly granted Nas the benefit of the doubt. You gullible Jim Jones. I appreciate you alerting me to that. What, given the facts, caused them to remain mute during the interview? In contrast, 50 had been observing the scene in the background and wasn't laughing, But it became spiteful when supporters replayed the humorous video as everyone declared it to be over.
Honestly, I can't, if it was like Jim Jones, imagine putting a pen to paper to write about him. He was so nice about him. How did you do that? What's the first sentence? What the fuck do you write about him? I'm not anxious to hear the Jim Jones diss record. I'm not, yo. Used to have so nervous was like B.I.G., Pop, right? Even Cannabis, like Eminem, used to have you like, if we go at it, dog, we gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? But Jim Jones, I respect you getting your money. You're like, exactly, right?
In contempt, Jim's assertion that he was better than Nas prompted 50 Cent to recreate one of the most contentious tales in hip-hop history. Then he laughed, called Jim Individual One, and pulled some receipts from his bottomless petty library. One caption, which revealed that someone else was watching everything from the shadows while Nas remained silent and Shannon was acting eerily, was all that sent the internet into a frenzy. Individual One is more than simply a moniker. The federal designation was taken directly from a wiretap of Tekashi 69 in 2018. Tekashi's 9 Trey Bloods trial purportedly featured a phone call that featured Jim Jones, who was not named in court but was referred to as such. There have been rumors that someone told gang members to hurt Tekashi for abandoning the stage during that conversation. The street bloggers and 50 were not blind to the fact that Jim was never charged and his voice was never officially confirmed in court. Jim is currently working to increase the number of people who listen to his broadcast and fight 50. He's still talked about on the streets today, and he found the ideal opportunity to let everyone know it. After swiftly removing the meme from his collection on Instagram and writing, "So that's why they ain't pull him in," he immediately reposted it. "Jimmy, don't say that to me." The Shade Room updated Tekashi's case in 2019. 50 felt obliged to write about Tekashi's purported allusion to Jim Jones as a member of 9 Trey, according to a trustworthy courtroom reporter. The well-known movie of 50 Frightened People came next.
Out in Texas. Please, whatever you do, don't tell them I'm in San Antonio. Don't tell them I'm staying at the Four Seasons. Don't tell them, please, don't tell them, because there's just so much pressure on me right now. I don't know what to do.
I'm afraid for my life. Jimmy is gang, he stated. As the internet laughed, Jimmy flinched. However, this encounter with Nas provided 50 with the ideal pretext to resume dragging Jim around after years of animosity, which is why things go awry. When Dipset was experiencing internal issues during a 2007 G-Unit performance, 50 Cent called Jim Jones and Jules Santana on stage. Cameron was upset because he thought this was blatant disrespect. Prosecutors used a wiretapped phone call to identify Jim Jones as an individual during the federal prosecution of Tekashi 69 in 2019, despite the fact that the organization was already disintegrating behind the scenes. Jim was never charged, but the sentence was enforced, and charges of online snitching were frequent. Jim remained silent for a whole minute as 50 posts were made. Dipset tweeted an old photo of the Bird Gang and captioned it with a sobering message. "Why do you lie so much? I intend to go back to male matrix and rest until someone tells Shannon Sharpe, don't start ducking this challenge now." Jim posted another gorgeous workout photo with the comment, "No backwards. Will you appear to be a podcaster? Or will you present yourself as someone who lives by your principles? The main reason is that my sneakers were tied. Champion, since you publicly challenged me, you may as well complete the task." In Male Matrix, he made fun of his close friend who had served more than 11 years in prison for racketeering, implying that 50 was a fantasy person who made things up. To which Achinko replied, "I don't want to do it in." Jim was getting ready for the fight when 50 trolled from the stand. Jim also said, "If you're 40 years of age or older and fighting with me over Nas, you've already lost on social media." I get more streams every time you guys go viral because you fell for it. For those more experienced artists, here's a marketing lesson. Stuck in the past and annoyed by the way things are going right now, then his everything was summarized in the caption. I'll also listen to any musicians from my time. It costs money to enter the booth because this game isn't free. Whatever your thoughts, we are on the field every day. It's absurd that Nas remained silent while Jim continued to challenge, bait, and establish his greater power. However, despite Jim's criticism from fans, NS's introduction into the game would be more of a lyrical decision than a direct hit. Interview 14, 33:15, 11.
Yeah, Jimmy boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart, and Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats, and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally, it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You've really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening, bro.